Alright, so I'm guessing we're live now. So, hey everyone, I'm LurkingSR. I'll be running Mega Man Battle Network 6 Cybeast Gregar here today. Joining me is... Alright, so I'm joined, so again, I'm Lurking. I'm joined by Kumari. So Kumari, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I am Kumari. I am also a Battle Network runner.
And also with us here is the last AO. So Last, if you want to also introduce yourself.
Oops, I'm the last AAOA, former Battle Network 6 world record holder.
Alright, so I guess we don't need to delay anything. We can just get started here. So Last, can you count me down?
Absolutely. So, timer starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Alright,
All
so...
right.
Yeah, go ahead, Last. You can commentate.
Yep. Welcome to Battle Network 6 Cybeast Gregar, everybody. The Battle Network series launched in Game Boy Advance in 2001. This is the last game in the series, or at least rumored to be, which released in 2005. It's a RPG deck builder sort of action battle game. Kind of hard to put in any individual bucket. And we'll be walking around town real quick, talking to people before we get into the combat tutorial real quick.
So here we just have to mash a little bit of text and immediately we're going to be in the tutorial. It'll be a very good intro to how the battle system in this game will go, so if you're not familiar with this game, just these 3 battles where we'll basically explain everything to you.
Yeah, the combat system in this game is one of the most interesting parts for me. It's on a 6x3 grid, and it's 3x3 for you and 3x3 for your opponents. And 30 chips in your deck, or as we call folder, and we can select any chips if they are the same, which is Lurking just did right now. He got 2 cannons. And we can also select different chips that have the same codes. The codes go from A to Z, and there's also an asterisk code or star code, which can go with any chip. So yeah, that's what Lurking just did. He took an area grab, so he stole some of the virus's area.
You notice that Lurking used some charge shots there. Mega Man has his famous Mega Buster here, but it's kind of weak on its own unless you hold the charge button. You get to deal a bunch of damage. It's one of the strongest assets that we have access to, actually, and for those of you familiar with different games in the series, it's gotten some major buffs to it since like Battle Network 2 or Battle Network 3. What they just explained in that tutorial is the counter hit feature. So if you attack an enemy when they are vulnerable, about to attack themselves, you counter hit them, which stuns them and gives you the full synchro emotion, and that causes your next attack to then deal double damage. That we will also be taking lots of advantage of, as you have to imagine throughout the run to try and go quick.
Yeah, so here I just modified my folder for a minute, which I set Crackshot, which is a chip that does 60 damage, which is one of the best chips in the game, honestly, that you get in the starting folder. And I rigged it, so that means every fight from here on out I will be guaranteed to draw that on the first turn, which I will be using here in the next couple fights.
Alright, this first fight is extremely important, and Lurking got lucky off the start, although not unlucky more specifically. There's 2 gates that we have to get through throughout the run that are required to beat the game, which require random chip drops, and that Reflect 1A that we just got is good enough to open up that first gate. It's about a 1 in 18 to get screwed and get the wrong chip at the beginning, which would be a reset if we were on any serious run. It's about 30 seconds of time loss in the first 3 minutes, which is rough. The second chip that we're going to need, Train Arrow, we'll talk about a lot more later, but that's another major reset point. Corey, how do you feel about this encounter?
Oh, this gunner encounter?
Yeah.
This is a very nice one. So Lurking just got a really nice early game chip, Macan 1A. We want A codes because we want folder flow. We won't have the same code, so we can use a lot of chips together. So he just got a Macan 1A. It deals a lot of damage, and you can see there's a reward screen after the battle, after the fight, and you can do counter hits to guarantee a higher busting rank and get the chip that you want. In this case, Maka 1A.
Got to see featured the power of that crack shot. We took it in every fight. It one-shotted whatever we threw it at and got the counter hit, and then following it up with some folder flow with those cannons to get things taken care of. The counter hit on the second mock gun that was in that fight was actually more difficult than it looks. It's about a 2-frame window before you take damage, which would ruin your chance of getting a good drop, or not getting the counter hit, which would lower your chance to get a good drop. So well done by lurking there.
I actually didn't know it was that tight of a timing. But yeah, we should like also point out, like similar to how I could counter hit enemies and get full synchro, if enemies like hit me as I'm using the chip, I'm just gonna get counter hit out of the animation and not get the attack off. So that would have been kind of unfortunate if that happened there.
This is our first story encounter outside of the tutorial. It's pretty easy, and we had a fantastic draw, able to bait in those old stoves with their AI. If you hide in the back, they come to the front, you can use swords. Unfortunately, no drop, but we will pick up a little bit of money so that we can buy some sneak runs later on. They function much like repels in Pokemon, if you're familiar, allowing us to bypass a large number of random encounters.
Yeah,
I see
unfortunately.
a question in chat about the Japanese release. So all of these games released originally in Japan under the name Rockman EXE. So Rockman EXE 6. I don't know what the name for Gregar is. On average, it would the Japanese releases would be faster because of smaller text boxes or text size and thus less text boxes. But there are some US only glitches that we will be taking advantage of throughout the run.
Yeah, in terms of VN6 specifically, the US and Japanese versions are pretty close in terms of timings. Basically, runners can do whichever they prefer. Japanese has some advantages, US has others.
Yeah, the Japanese version is a bit faster, but you need to get lucky for
Yeah,
it
you-
to actually be faster. So yeah.
And we'll talk about that more later. Right now, we're in the middle of the first plot point. Some rogue fire Navi has taken over our school, and all of the security bots are unleashing their flamethrowers on the school children. So who better to save the day than the new kid who got here literally a couple hours ago for his first day of class, Lan and Mega Man. Kamari, you want to talk about the mechanics of the firewalls in this comp?
So there are some firewalls in this comp, and we're gonna move. Lurkin is gonna move a little bit different. Yeah, it's gonna look a little bit weird, but it's actually trying to trigger more firewalls because when the firewall animation is going on, we can't get encounters. So we want to get to where we need to go, but we also want to skip encounters as much as possible. So that is what Lurkin is doing.
You'll also see him get very low on HP, but no worries, the firewalls cannot kill you. You cannot die outside of battle any time in this game.
We're also, Lurkin is also gonna check out before the boss, so no problem.
Your run chance is based on your maximum HP base. So Lurking's currently at a maximum HP of 100, and in this encounter you needed at least 180 to have a 100% run rate. Oh, we failed again, so it was 50 on his first attempt and 75 on the second. It could go another time here. This next one's going to be 1 in 8 to fail to run. All of these are 12-second time losses, so a little painful. All right, there we go.
Yeah, so as last mentioned, it's our max HP that determines our likeliness to run away, and later on, if we're able to use sneak runs or not. Unfortunately, in this game, the curve of HP between areas to be able to skip encounters is too high, so we won't be able to like keep up. So we're gonna be getting encounters pretty much throughout the whole run.
We will get some fun techniques to deal with them later, though. Thanks to that HP memory we picked up, we're up to a 75% run rate, and it paid off in dividend right away. Here we're going to go talk to our new rival/friend Mick. He's currently the one who unleashed the fire Navi onto the net and is threatening all of our lives, so clearly talking to him is the solution. And you'll see a little bit more fancy walking out of our way there in order to trigger some firewalls. And again, right here so that we don't get encounters in most of this comp.
Okay. Luckily enough, if you talk to these frogs, it actually cancels the firewall. So there, I was just quick enough to talk to him before the fire goes off, and that just saves a little bit of time.
Here, Lurkin waited for the fires instead of just going, because he was just about to trigger another firewall. So yeah. Also,
Firewall.
Last can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he had no chance at an encounter there because of the last firewall.
Yep. The directions that the embers come from indicate the way the fire is going to come from, and they are random. It's three possible directions for each firewall, and he got lucky with that one.
Not working
and was
for some
able
reason.
to. Oop, we're having
Did
a little
your
trouble.
controller die?
Okay, we're back.
Oh, we're back. All right. So if you get favorable firewall spawns, you can have a 0% chance in that comp to get an encounter, and Lurking did have that, and with good enough movement, he was able to pull it off. So no encounters. Jacking back in because it's faster than walking back. Plus, when you fight viruses, you have a chance to get money or battle chips. We're not going to be really battle chip reliant on this particular run, and money doesn't really help us either, so just avoiding the encounters altogether is better. Here we're going to have a quick edit before our first boss fight. Kamari, do you want to take us through Blastman?
Yeah, so Blastman is our first boss, and the way he moves, he's gonna move 4 times or 3 times, and then on the 4th one he's gonna attack. And Lurkin just got an amazing draw there. But yeah, he's gonna try to avoid being in the same row as you, unless he's gonna attack, and you can counter hit him pretty easily. That's it. Basically a very easy fight because of that amazing draw. So that was Makan, the chip we Lurking got earlier. It is very powerful in the early game.
Yeah, so what
especially
happened
with an attack to send.
Yeah, so what happened there is I had a counter hit, which doubles the damage, and I also had an attack plus 10, which increases the damage by 10, but since I had a counter hit, it's 20. And that's on each attack, which is, I think it does like 5 total attacks, so...
4 hits, yeah.
4 hits.
320 damage in 1 attack against a 400 HP boss.
Yeah.
Just obliterated. Now we're gonna go back onto the internet. Before we couldn't explore as much as we wanted because there was a wall in our way, but it turns out that friend/enemy Mick was the one who put the wall up, and he hid the key in some graffiti. So we're gonna pick that up and go learn about some of the broader plot of the game. Very exciting stuff.
So here in a minute we're going to be buying sneak runs, which will allow us to skip all encounters in central area, so I just need to talk to this guy. You can actually get an encounter before him, which is kind of just a time loss, but since I got here without an encounter, I can instantly pop the sneak run, and I will not be getting encounters anymore. At least for this trip through the internet.
How the sneak runs work in this game is if you have a 100% run rate from the enemies that you would be encountering, the sneak run prevents those encounters. That's how it functions in some of the later Battle Network games as well. Earlier Battle Network games, it also reduces the chance of getting encounters. And there are plenty of bugs, but for us, for our purposes, it's mostly just going to be when we're in central area, we're going to throw down a sneak run in order to avoid encounters and save quite a bit of time. Now, Lurking's been going out of his way to pick up some reg ups. Kamari, do you want to talk about why that's going to be?
Yeah, so there's a regular memory the Mega Man can use. You can set a chip as your regular chip, so it's gonna appear first in every fight. And that's what Lurkin actually did in the first edit. He set Crackshot as a regular chip, so that's why he was getting Crackshot in every fight. And for that, you need a certain amount of memory, rag memory, as it is called, and we're gonna need exactly 12 of that. And yeah, because we're gonna rag copy damage later.
We also took advantage of it to reg our Reflector in order to guarantee that draw on Blastman, which is useful because it's an easy way to counter hit him early on.
It's also a very good chip for seaside encounters, which are going to happen in a while. So yeah.
our new plot point is we woke up and found a penguin at school, and that penguin is following Mick around. So we have to figure out where the penguin came from and what the penguin eats. It turns out penguins eat fish. Also, it's a pelican. Shoutouts to Pelican Gang. We're going to dip quickly into this blackboard to pick up one of our last reg ups, and then we're going to go fix an icebox in order to get our hands on those delicious fish.
Yeah, so basically a little thing about this game and this series as a whole is if something is not working, there's a virus in it, and in a little bit there's going to be a fish box that I believe is not opening, and it's not opening because it has a virus in it.
It's a big commentary on the Internet of Things in general. So the good news is we have all of us powerful cyber warriors who are clearly going to be expert virus deleters when Internet of Things finishes coming to fruition. The
Reflector
50-50
is
chance.
also a very nice
Yes.
chip in this fight.
Reflector counter hits most enemies in the game pretty effectively and also pierces with a slight delay, so we were able to unload a lot of damage. I was going to say there's a 50-50 chance of that fish in the front moving up or down. Totally random. We prefer it to go down because Reflector exactly kills the starfish in the back, but Lurking got a good enough draw that he was able to one-turn that one no problem without any good luck.
Just needed 2 extra charge shots.
So now we got the fish, and we're obviously going to go feed it to that penguin.
There are fantastic and many side exploration pieces you can do throughout the Battle Network games, but we're going to be doing practically no side quests whatsoever. Battle Network 6 in general, about halfway through the game, we get access to some extremely powerful tools that are going to let us just lay waste to everything else that we come across. So if you were playing, for example, a randomizer, you would have ducked into a lot of those side rooms, picked up a lot of extra loot, trying to find good things, useful things, but we are going to, this is practically a min % run, is how streamlined we've gotten the Battle Network 6 speed run down.
So now we're trying to go to Seaside area, which is like the internet of the Aquarium ocean area, to find out if there are any reports of a missing penguin anywhere, so we could return it home. Oh, I should go there. This is the copy damage ship that we mentioned earlier that we're gonna have on reg pretty much throughout the entire mid to late game.
And unfortunately, there's a plumbing issue on the internet preventing us from advancing to the water area. Fortunately, we found a plumber earlier, although he lost his tools, so we'll have to hunt that down.
Yeah, because, you know, internet navigators definitely cannot walk over a small puddle of water.
Right, and similarly, you need a plunger to fix a giant leak, the same way you would need to fix a toilet.
Yeah, so this guy now tells us that he lost his tool when he was doing work in some town at home. And you know, coincidentally, because what else would it be, he was in our own home trying to fix our toilet. So we're gonna go into this toilet here to basically fix it. But first, before we do the fight, we're gonna have to show you the best sprite in the entire Mega Man Battle Network series, which is this Meteor with a plunger in his head.
Very nice.
Good enough.
Yeah, so in this fight, for a one turn, you want basically any A code. We currently have Cannon and Makan and Reflector, but it's on Rag, so we're always gonna have Reflector. And the way Reflector works, its attack travels 1 tile at a frame. So when the Metro in the front dies, the other one gets up and also dies in the next frame, so the fight is really nice.
Chad is observing we are actually on roller skates in the real world. Even better, you cannot walk upstairs in your roller skates. You have to roller skate up them. If you release the run button, you will run up them anyway, which is pretty funny. We're about to get to Seaside. This is our first big RNG point. There are viruses in this comp that can drop the legendary train arrow chip, which we're going to need later on to bypass the walls. That's the other chip that I mentioned earlier. Unfortunately, each encounter only has a 24% chance of giving us that train arrow, and it's dependent on the enemies that we see. So we're actually pretty likely to get unlucky. It's those piranhas that we want to see, though, so this is a good opening fight. Hopefully Lurking will get there and find the train arrow. Wow, excellent technique keeping that sortie lined up as well. I would not have done that. I would have been slower.
Yeah, I probably should not have grabbed the sword there. Okay, so now I have a 1 in 3 to get the chip that I wanted, which didn't happen. There are still a couple, at least one more fight in this comp that could have it or could not. There are some encounters that don't even have the piranha virus that we need.
How the game chooses which reward to give you from a battle is it just selects one of the enemies at random and then rolls on their drop table. And unfortunately, even if we hit the correct virus drop table of those piranhas, it's a 50-50 to give us the chip that we need. So unlucky here. This would, if we were on world record attempts, this would be another unfortunate reset point, but we've got some nice backup strats that we'll get to show off.
Okay, this is going into the folder for Life Sword, obviously.
Mara, do you want to talk about program advances?
Yeah, so in the Battle Network series, you can combine some chips. Sometimes the same chip, but in an order with different codes. And sometimes different chips with the same code. And it makes for a really powerful combination, which we actually call program advances. And unfortunately, in BN6 we don't really use them that much. I'm not really sure if Lurking was joking about it.
It was, but I'm actually considering it just for the memes, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so now just for the backup, I'm gonna check into this fish sticks comp. This comp has, every encounter in it has 2 piranhas, so every single encounter will always have a 50-50 in order to get the train arrow that we need. It's probably the best, safest place to get the backup. It's not the quickest backup, but for a marathon run, it's probably the best place to hope to get it.
Yeah, the downside with the program advances in general is that there's a time stop component to it after you've selected the chip. Plus you have to draw all 3 of them, and we are going to be so fast later on that we don't want to deal with that like 2-second time stop to have a very powerful attack when we can just roast the bad guys far faster.
Okay, so now we should have a 50-50 to get the chip. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So we're gonna basically have to keep going until we get it. We cannot finish the game without this chip. At least that was a quick second encounter. That's a good draw. What if I do that?
Unlucky. Good news is we've managed to keep our full synchro from the end of that encounter. By counter hitting the last piranha, Lurking's able to maintain that double damage going into the next fight, which should speed it up.
Okay, so there's another 50-50, let's see. Oh my god.
No. Very unlucky.
This fight is a little bit quicker with only 2 piranhas.
We'll also get a better busting rank here. So the busting rank defaults to 9, and counter hits increase it. Killing multiple enemies in the same attack increases it, and taking time or getting hit or moving too much lowers it. The higher your buster rank, the better the drop. And in this case, that's actually true. If we get a good buster rank, we'll get Train Arrow A, which you'll remember, A codes flow well with our folder. If we get a bad buster rank and get the trip, we'll get a Train Arrow A, which does not flow as well. And we actually do change up our strategies on our edits a little bit. Based on which of those codes we get. Unfortunately, alphabet soup on that draw. This is going to be a long encounter.
And I got hit. Should still be okay. Yeah, I still should have a good enough rank to potentially get the ship here. But again, everyone is a 50-50. We got it.
There it is.
Alright.
Unfortunately, it did happen on the one fight where I got hit, so it was a low busting rank, so it was K-coded rather than A-coded, but that's still fine. It's not a...
Yeah, K-code is actually fine. We need a train arrow to open the door, to open a door later in the game. But the code doesn't really matter for that. But it's a very useful chip for a couple of fights in the early to mid game. So for that reason, it's better if it's an A code.
Yeah. Though, it's not that much slower. Like, the worst case is the K-code would make my fights go maybe like 5 to 10 seconds slower, and that's if it's unlucky.
Yeah.
So now we're introduced to a fan favorite component of all of the Battle Network games after, what, 2? The Navi Customizer, which is a little square where we get to install various programs that will make Mega Man stronger. We get to go through a lovely little tutorial that I'll remind Lurking you can soft lock in if you mash too fast.
Can you do it in PN6?
I think you can. I want to say somebody's ever done it, but it's difficult. Mega Man Battle Network 3 features that problem a lot more frequently, and we've had the pleasure of seeing a number of streamers lose it.
See, I did not know that you could softlock in BN6, so I was like so paranoid mashing there.
I won't tell you whether or not I'm just screwing with you. So our initial programs aren't all that powerful. We get an attack +1, which is helpful. It'll double the damage of our charge shots. We get a speed +1, which just makes us shoot a little faster. Who cares? And we get undershirt, which prevents us from dying to any hit if we are not already at 1 HP, but it will leave us at 1 HP, so it's essentially a little bit extra health. We'll be taking major advantage of the Navi Customizer later and get a little bit more into the discussion on that. In the meantime, we are going back to the aquarium. It was closed, and of course, a closed aquarium can't accept your penguin that ran away, so we have to drop it off the next day. Also take a moment to talk about the edit that we saw Lurking do. He put Train Arrow into the folder. We said it was a good chip, and he put the longsword in as well, but you might have noticed that he put the Train Arrow in... You did? Okay.
Yeah, I did not.
He put the Train Arrow in at the top of the folder, and there's a reason for that. The shuffling algorithm for the decks in Mega Man Battle Network games is actually bugged. You are more likely to draw chips at the top of your folder than you are those at the bottom, and so we intentionally take advantage and put our powerful chips in slots 1 through 4 in order to increase the chance that we draw them. It ends up being a change from like 16% to 24% just by moving the powerful chips to the top.
Yeah, so right now my top should be 2 Cannon A's and Train Arrow and what's it called? Mach Gun. So Mach Gun at the very beginning, I also put it at the very top, which is probably why I drew it in the Blast Man fight.
So here, Lurking is gonna grab the last rag of memory necessary for the run. And now we can later rag copy damage. It's gonna be very useful for the rest of the run.
Yeah, so copy damage will be rigged basically after this next boss. So I'm not gonna need it now, and I currently have Crackshot reg because I'm gonna need it for the next boss, which is Dive Man. It's a great chip against him. And also in the after the boss fight, we're gonna have a few other like small fights that Crackshot will be basically necessary for.
We just went on a tour of the aquarium and actually had to talk to almost every fish. We didn't have to talk to the dolphins and we didn't have to talk to the jellyfish, but everything else that we did have to talk to, and there's a reason for that. The next comp is going to be your mandatory aquarium fish quiz. Chat, I hope you took notes because there is a test.
I don't think I got it. Oh, I did.
Very nice penguin skip.
So over there, I actually frame perfectly turned around the corner to be able to walk behind the penguin. It saves, I believe, 2 frames if you do it. Maybe 1 frame.
2 turn frames.
Yeah, 2 frames.
the Battle Network series features isometric gameplay. You can see we kind of have this diagonal view down at LAN, and because of that and the way the X and Y values are internally coded, it is actually significantly faster to move up and down than it is to move left and right. Moving up and down, you advance 2 units per frame versus moving left and right, you move 1. And that's actually pretty relevant for a number of small places where we could, for example, walk diagonally into a screen transition, or we could walk vertically. Turning, unfortunately, does lose you 1 frame, but you'll notice how Lurking is like able to, for example, right there, he just walked straight up into the aquarium because that would be significantly faster than turning to diagonally, or even worse, going horizontally along the bottom wall, even though he would glide up it in order to enter. So a surprising amount of depth is involved in these like minute little movement choices, and it actually makes for a pretty fun speed game because there's always another corner that you're gonna not make a perfect turnaround to try and save that 1 or 2 frames. Striving for perfection there.
It's actually really fun because like even though it's frames, like as I'm running, I'm constantly thinking like, how can I turn as little as I possibly could, even though it's 1 frame per turn. So it's every 60 turns, it's just 1 second lost. It's just really fun to try to cut them out.
Mari, care to introduce us to our second dungeon comp?
Yes, so now we are at Aquarium comps, and here, that was very unlucky. I am very sorry, Lurking. That was a 6% chance of an encounter, and Lurking was just about to show off the cool thing about this comp is that
Watch me get a trainer.
you can switch.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you gonna do it right now?
I don't think you're supposed to, right? If you get an encounter, your death counter resets anyways. But yeah, so in a second, after I drop this prog off in his tank,
you
will
can
see what we're
switch.
talking about.
You can press L to switch from Megaman to LAN and then back to Megaman. Because casually, you're supposed to switch to LAN to go look and read again about the animals, the fishes in the aquarium. So you know where to drop off each prog, but we're not gonna do that because that's slow. So we're just gonna switch them because it resets our set counter, so we can just go through and not get encounters. But there's a 6% on the very first one, and Lurking was just very unlucky.
The L button more often if we wanted to guarantee no encounter, but I went ahead and routed out the minimum number of L button presses for each, and I think Kamari is also mad at me because he often gets the last encounter. That's possible because of that, also 6%. Each time you press the L button to swap between LAN and Mega Man, it costs about 4 seconds, so we do want to try and minimize those. Also, you can see Lurking's having to dodge his way around these sharks while he escorts the progs. If the shark catches up to you, it will eat the prog and send it back to the start, and you have to walk back through again. Casually, many of you might remember this as being very difficult, but if you always move the same way, the sharks always move the same way. So for speedrunning, it's just about knowing where you need to be and at what times. Makes it work quite quickly.
Yeah, you can actually kind of manipulate the shark's movement, the blue shark, because the red sharks are a little bit faster, and they always move the same way. They have a fixed pattern, but the blue ones, they actually try to follow you if they see you, basically. So what Lurking did there, he slowed down for a second, just so he could go through that blue shark.
It's only done in 2 spots, which I just did it the first time, which is just taking a few steps to slow down. And a little bit in the next prog, I will do it again, where I just slow down for just a couple of seconds to manipulate the shark positions.
I see a question in chat about using Beast Out or Beast Over. We'll talk about that more later, but for those of you familiar, Beast Out is fairly fast in certain situations in the Gregar version of the game. The Falzer version, we use it more frequently, and if we ever have to use Beast Over, something has gone seriously wrong. That leads us into a conversation, though, about version differences. So we're playing Battle Network 6 Gregar. It is the faster version, and that's in part due to the scenario that will come up after this, where we encounter Heatman. The major differences between Falzar and Gregar are, one, the final boss being Gregar or Falzar. Spoilers, sorry. It's a 2005 game. Spoilers are probably on the table. But also, the Link Navis that you will encounter throughout the game are different. So the first Link Navi that we have to do, plot mandated, you have to do one, will be Heatman for Gregar and Spoutman for Falzar. That means that the cross that you get, which we will discuss later, for Gregar version is Heat Cross, and you get Spout Cross for Falzar, and Spout Cross is definitely just not as good. In addition, Aquaman's scenario is, or sorry, Spoutman's scenario is longer. So that leads to the primary savings and why Gregar is the faster version. It's what, like 5 to 7 minutes, I want to say, faster. Although the Falzar version receives a little less love because it is the technically more difficult game and slower. So, shoutouts to Burb version fans. I know you're out there.
Shoutouts to
Word
Jimmy.
up.
Yeah, so here just update on what's going on. We only have 2 more procs to drop off before having to fight the next boss. The next boss, Diveman, in my opinion, is the worst fight in this whole run. He's like, his patterns are annoying. He can definitely always troll you. So the next fight can go either greatly or very slowly.
There's a discussion about the best games in the series. Originally, Battle Network was meant to be a trilogy, and so Battle Network 3 is sort of the culmination of all the work that went into 1 and 2 and is a fantastic game. And then they released a second trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, and so 6 is the best of that bunch. So if you're looking for a place to jump into the series casually, 3 or 6 would be my recommendation. You can't go wrong with either of them. And I hope you enjoy it. It's a really excellent game casually, and there's plenty of cool post-game and plenty of fun boss fights to engage with. Speaking of, Kamara, do you want to talk about Diveman?
I'm not even sure, because as Lurkin said, Diamond is probably the worst boss in the game. But yeah. The way Diveman works, he's a submarine, so he's gonna be under water. For the most time, he's gonna be submerged for most of the fight, so you can hit him most of the time. Unfortunately, Lurkin tried to go for a counter hit there. When he goes up and goes for these bomb attacks, I don't know what are the chances for him to attack. Do you know that
1 in
Left?
3.
So yeah, it's 1 in 3 chance for him to attack. And after he always moves twice, and he also tries to avoid backtracking and to avoid the same row as Mega Man. So yeah, now Lurking got a really nice counter hit. And there are also the torpedoes. They're always there, I believe, random positions. You can correct me if I'm wrong there.
1 in your
Alex.
row and 1 in a random row.
All right.
Yeah, to just re-emphasize that, Diveman moves twice invulnerably and then attacks. He can randomly attack, or he cannot attack. Every 4th attack is a giant wave. He also tries to avoid your row, which means you can manipulate his position because he doesn't like to backtrack. And there are torpedoes to dodge that pop up randomly. Easily the most complicated boss in the game. We get him taken care of nice and early, but don't worry, he'll show up again later.
Yeah. So over there, I actually got lucky. Like at the beginning, I drew amazingly, but I messed up the counter hit and missed my train arrow. But I followed up by more good luck drawings, and I got a counter hit into Muck Gun, which one shot him.
Mm-hmm. It was an above average fight, all things put together.
Yeah.
So, for fans familiar with the series, we're about to go meet an old friend in a little while. I don't remember quite the plot at this point, but I'm pretty sure we got in trouble for something and are in detention. And so we're going to have to help out the new teacher who has come to the block, and that will be Mr. Match. Of course, we'll do that in a moment. I guess we have to talk to our friend Iris first. She's probably plot relevant at some point.
Yeah, she's the girl that at the very beginning of the game was being attacked by a robot dog, and we saved her. She just showed up there for the first time, and now we're seeing her one more time. She just kind of pops in here and there.
each of the 5 Link Navis in the game, of which we'll only be seeing Heatman, has their own mini scenario that you have to take care of, and then followed up by a boss fight with them. The Heatman scenario is one of my favorite scenarios in the game, just because we've gotten the fights so down to a science and avoid all of the nasty mechanics to just go as fast as we can. Mechanically, how this is going to work is in each of the following 4 fights, there's going to be a kettle virus. Oh, a brief aside, Lurking's actually going to open up his menu here and then reclose it because it despawns the cube that was in our way faster than watching the cube despawn via animation. So there are going to be kettles in each of these fights, and they are each only vulnerable to fire damage. You have to do 100 fire damage to them, but they will heal very quickly over time. As their temperature goes down, we're trying to boil them. But we're going to abuse counter hits, chaining them throughout fights, and the very powerful heat press, which you just saw him leap forward there. It does 70 damage base, so 140 doubled, to just absolutely obliterate these battles.
Yeah, so basically in all of these fights, I have to keep carrying full synchro. Losing full synchro, I forgot to sneak run. Losing full synchro can be either a huge problem or a smaller problem, depending on which fight you miss it on.
This is Gregar version, to answer the question in chat.
Got us to saving 2 inputs by drawing a very lucky crack shot on the 5th slot rather than the 1st slot.
I'm impressed that you realized that on the fly.
I always look for it. I think it's because you always mentioned it whenever you did runs, so I was like, okay, so I'm gonna be looking for this. So here I saved before this fight because messing up this counter hit timing would be multiple minutes of time loss, even though it's very simple, but it's just a safety thing. Because the next fight, there are no enemies that we could counter hit. It's only kettles, so we have to go into it with full synchro.
We're also going to take advantage of those reg ups that we've been picking up to reg copy damage, so that way we can deal all of the damage that we deal to some of the kettles to the final one. How copy damage works is just any damage that's recorded on other enemies gets copied over onto the enemy that we hit with our copy damage. And in earlier games it's bad, but every game throughout the series has buffed copy damage to last longer and longer, and so by 6 it is just one of the best chips that we have access to.
So Lurky decided to rag Crackshot there because he didn't get a Train Arrow A, he got a Train Arrow K, so no folder flow. And if he top decked it, it could be a very fast fight, 1-turn fight. Unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Yeah, so Train Arrow does a lot of damage to this guy. It does 150 base damage, but he's a fire type and that's a water chip, so he's weak to it, and that does double that damage, so that's 300. And with full synchro, that would be 600 damage to a 700 HP enemy. But unfortunately, we didn't draw it.
The difference between drawing the Train Arrow and not drawing the Train Arrow is usually on the order of 40 seconds. So this is another huge reset point in attempts for PBs. Rather unfortunate too, because we're already past a number of big reset points and 40 minutes into the run.
Yeah, so that was basically an average no Train Arrow fight, but if I did draw it, I could have one-shot. I can skip this cutscene.
Really cool bit of tech here that I will encourage you to watch very carefully what's going to happen, and then I'll describe what you're seeing afterwards.
If I get it. Nope.
Unfortunate. So these Metars, especially the ones in red or blue later on, have a shield, and as long as they are not standing up, that shield is active, but they start standing up. And so what Lurking attempted to do was to press A to use his first fire hit chip, move forward, pause the game, then unpause the game and use his second chip. The reason for that pause is there is an internal cooldown on all chips. You can't mash them as fast as you would want. There's that cooldown that you can only use them so quickly, back to back. But when you pause the game, the internal cooldown is still ticking. So if you were to activate chips and frame perfectly pause and unpause, you could use all of your chips one frame after another in terms of actual gameplay. This is the only time in the run that that's useful, and unfortunately he didn't get the trick. But it's a fun little thing to encounter.
Because you have to pause very quickly after using the chip, I basically press the chip at use button and then instantly pause, but I must have like paused first before pressing A to use the chip, just because I tried to do them very close to each other.
So we did just unlock Heat Cross, which is very important to the run, but we'll talk about later because we're not about to use it. Instead, let's discuss the Lotto codes. Kamari, do you want to talk about your options here?
Yeah, so I believe Lurking does it a bit differently than what I do, but we can get some chips and also Navi Customizer programs and sub chips. We can get a lot of items from this number trader, and casually you're supposed to look around the overworld and get these numbers, but we just know the best ones basically. So we're gonna get a couple of chips here. They're gonna go in the folder. Very useful chips. And also some very useful Navi Customizer programs that are gonna make our buster become really strong. And that's basically it. Lurking got Element Trap there. I'm not a big fan of Element Trap, but it's a very safe chip. I'm a fan of Air Spin, which he also got.
The Lotto codes come from internal to the game. You can find them by talking to random NPCs or completing jobs once you unlock the job board. They also come from the anime. They come from the magazine. They come from the other version of the game. They come from old games. They come from all kinds of things. So we just have a convenient lookup table and pick out whatever we want. Those things in total, we got HP plus 400, which is that green program you see at the top, Buster Pack, which is the red program that you see off the bottom, and a few chips. Now, in other games, you actually have to confine yourself to the square that it looks like the Navi Customizer should be. In Battle Network 6, it's more of a suggestion. Currently, Lurking has 2 bugs, one from sticking that red program off the bottom, and the other from sticking the plus parts program, the pink one, on the command line. That's just going to bug his buster, so that if he tries to shoot it normally, he has a chance of misfiring. Totally irrelevant. We'd way prefer the extra strength that we'll get out of putting those programs in than worrying about those bugs.
Yeah, so starting the next fight, which won't be for a little bit because we're gonna have a small mini game here to play, which I say small, but it's gonna take a good amount of time. But you're gonna realize Mega Man is just so much stronger than he was earlier.
Like, absurdly so. We are only going to make 3 more edits to Mega Man's power level throughout the rest of the game. And if we could fight the final boss at this moment, we would win fairly easily.
Yeah, so coming up is everyone's favorite minigame scenario. It's soul weapons or evil spirits. So basically, Circus Man, our next boss, I'm not sure about the plot, but I believe he unleashed these viruses, these evil spirits, and we have to deal with them. So we get soul weapons. We have soul daggers, sword.
Yeah,
I don't even remember.
I think it's knife, sword, axe, gun.
Yeah, and so they each do a different attack, have a different range. I mean, and there are 3 types, 3 colors of evil spirits: red ones, yellow, and blue ones. And the red ones take only 1 hit to die, the yellow ones take 2, and the blue need 3 hits to die. But if you hit any of them from behind, they actually just die from 1 hit. So that's what we try to do most of the time. And also, when they die, there's an animation, so we try to kill as much as possible of them together, so we'd save time on those animations.
There's a couple additional subtleties. if you are ever next to an evil spirit and it doesn't die, it will counterattack you. That counterattack damage isn't relevant. It's only 10, and we have 520 HP, plus aren't going to get hit anyway. But it is a long time, so we avoid that. And there is a lot of very fine-tuned movement here. Each of those panels you see on the ground is not quite the squares that line up with the attacks that we're using, and so you can do some very clever things about standing in particular spots to try and minimize your movement, and letting go of the run button, for example, to be extra precise, trying to save all of those frames.
Yeah, so in terms of like general gameplay, this is probably the slowest part of the game. We have to do 6 of these screens, 3 as Mega Man right now, and then things are gonna happen. And then we're gonna have to do another 3 with Heatman, which we can control. So it's like a good amount of time. Did I mess up here? No, I didn't, right?
No, you're good.
Okay.
To update you on the plot, which I know you're all dying to hear about, Circus Man is an evil clown, which is being used by ex-WWW Navi operators, which, if you don't know what that is, no big deal. They're the villains from like Battle Networks 1 and 3, to unleash the 2 Psy Beasts. That one there on the screen is Gregar, and we've already... Falzar has already disappeared. He then ate Falzar by sucking him in to an extra-dimensional, extra-big storage space that... is inside of him, but he wasn't fat enough to eat both Psy Beasts, so Gregar is running amok. He's the one spawning the evil spirits, and we, in our infinite wisdom, realized that Mega Man is actually also holds one of these big extra-dimensional storage spaces because he is effectively human DNA as a Navi, which takes a lot of storage space. So we chase down Gregar and absorb him, but this leads to major problems, and Mega Man is currently thrashing around in pain on our homepage. So we run to our helpful friend Heatman and go deep into the internet to find the heal water, because obviously what you need when you're thrashing around from eating a giant super legendary cyber god is a little bit of water from a special spring in a random corner of the internet. Unfortunately, there's more evil spirits on the way there, and our buddy Circus Man is going to try and stop us. Oh, it's actually Mega Man's idea. Lan was against it. Thank you for that correction. This is one of 3 times we're going to be forced to play as a partner Navi throughout the course of the game. And we do get to do a few more fights as him, which is pretty nice. In terms of the actual speedrun, it's possible to pick up a second partner Navi without losing too much time. Shoutouts to Terra, who's a big fan of Electman strats. You end up having to pay the entire time cost of doing the scenario and the boss fight for the new Navi that you unlock, but each Navi has their own special entry point to the internet, which allows us to make a couple of shortcuts more useful and get to plot relevant places faster, and then we unlock electric abilities for beating Electman that would speed up a couple of fights and make them a little bit safer. There isn't much in terms of tutorials on how to do Electman strats, but they are a little bit more beginner friendly than Heatman only strats. And speaking of, there's lots of good tutorials for all of the Battle Network game speedruns, but primarily Battle Network 6. In fact, it was, I think, my tutorials that Kamari got Kamari into speedrunning this, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say that Last has amazing tutorials for VN6, like really in-depth tutorials. It's basically the only reason why I started running VN6 was that I found his tutorials on the internet, so yeah.
And as the circle of all things speedrunning is, he currently has a lower PB than me. Yeah, plot spoilers being discussed in chat. If you're not yet played Battle Network 3, is it 3 that they say Lan is Mega Man's brother? Hub is Mega Man is Lan's brother? I don't remember. It's like 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. They discussed that, but that's like why they're so close and why we care so much about Mega Man. It's like a super relevant plot point in the anime too, that like Lan is totally shaken up the first time Mega Man dies, and then everybody's like, "You idiot! He's a program. We can just reanimate him for backup data," and then they do that.
Yeah, I think they already mentioned that in 1, that they're brothers.
Oh, at the end of all the... Today I learned, chat. Thank you. I've never actually played through Battle Network 1 myself.
Same.
I see that Smog BN is in chat. He could tell us all about BN1.
Actually, an aside while we have the time, Battle Network games have really interesting RNG mechanics, and specifically, Battle Network 1 does not, like when you soft reset it, it always goes back to the same RNG value, and so it is fully manipulated. An hour-and-a-half long run of just perfect manipulation, every draw you ever want, no encounters except the ones you need, etc. It's amazing. We have a little bit of manipulation going on for Battle Networks 2 and 3. I'm less familiar with how that is. There's even some for 4 now in terms of making sure that you get the optimal scenarios, because 4 is like a tournament with random stuff. It's really cool. 5 and 6. 5, we have arbitrary
5 we
code
have-
execution available.
Yeah.
And 6, we have Slipwalk, but we'll get to that later. It's not as impressive, but it's still delightful. So glitches to come, I promise.
So I made
The
a
door fights?
slight mistake in the previous fight and didn't pick Crackshot when I needed Crackshot, so it slowed these fights down a little bit, but it's no big deal. We're just gonna have to bust through this guy a couple times.
Yeah, these are fixed fights. They're always the same thing, and just using Crackshot and Heatman's chip, it's actually really simple for the most part.
Yeah. It just sucks like sometimes you try to go too quick and you miss an input and it just messes up your whole...
Exactly.
Because like
Yeah.
every fight depends on how the previous fight ended, whether you have full synchro or not. So making one mistake can just spiral into the fights going badly.
But it's not too bad. Just a
Yeah.
couple of buster shots and it's all good. So now more evil spirits, and this is gonna be the last area with evil spirits for about 1 hour, I think.
Yeah, about an hour.
Yeah, they are, spoilers, they are gonna come back.
With a vengeance, too. If you make a mistake on the evil spirits, they tend to give you enough weapons that it's not really a big deal. And you can also reset the encounter or the room by talking to the official Navi at the start of each. That's super not relevant here because, as you can see, this one we're going to have like all 2 weapons to spare, no big deal, but it will be relevant later. This is the heal water. Right up ahead, we're going to have a little surprise battle with some goons sent to us by Circus Man. It's one of those fights where if we draw one of those very powerful chips that we got recently, it can go very quickly, and otherwise, well, we'll just use fancy full synchro and copy damage tricks to get through it.
Yep, that's good enough.
Yeah, Attack Plus 10 is not a new fancy chip, but it also works. And the Quaker cooperated as well.
Okay, so
So
had I
that-
drawn M Boomer or what's the other one, Air Spin, I could have basically just one-shot the fight.
Yep.
And enemies in Battle Network games tend to have extremely consistent and therefore manipulatable AIs, which means that all of these fights that you're seeing doing, especially the fixed ones, we know what to do with any chip draw and how to move around to maximize the fights. And the random encounters that we get into, well, it's only 1 in 12, so we've probably fought that random encounter dozens of times and have the experience to blast through them as well. Super fun to try and route out.
So here, Mega Man is back, and we get access to Beast Out. That's a very cool mechanic, also a very broken mechanic, very, very strong. Lurking's gonna do a very cool strat here with a mini bomb.
Oh my god. I'm just gonna mess up the ghost trap with the
I-
mini bomb.
Shouldn't have said that, but it's okay. Anyway, what Beast Out does, it powers up any no element chip. I think it's by 30 attack.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's really, really powerful, and especially with like multiple hits, with chip that hit multiple times, like Vulcan for example, it's just really, really strong. And you can also charge the chip by holding A, and he does 2 slashes. He jumps on the enemies and does 2 slashes, each of them dealing 100 damage for a total of 200 damage. So it's also really strong. Unfortunately, we don't really use it that much on Gregar because Heat Cross is also very strong, but we use it a lot on Falzer, Bird Up, and yeah. Wanna
All right,
add anything
here we
else
come
on
to
that?
Circus Man. And this will be your introduction to how we beat every fight for the rest of the game.
Yep.
I'll let it speak for itself and then explain. Done. 130 damage per hit, charges as fast as the boss's invincibility falls off, and even hits multiple hitboxes of enemies in a row off frames too. It's 1 frame per progression, so you can multi-hit enemies when lined up properly. Just disgusting. That's Heat Cross plus that Buster Pack that we put in, and that's the reason why Gregar version is so much faster than Falzar version, because they don't get that power. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Falzar version tends to have to be more creative with using chips and using beast outs rather than just heat cross and kill everything. This is just we don't have any sneak runs at this point, and we only need to run to the end of this area, so you just have a chance to get an encounter. There's nothing we could do about it. But luckily, again, we could just run away from it at this point, so it's only a 7 to 8 seconds time loss.
For some of the more overarching plot line of the game now, there's an Expo going on, or about to be going on, which is part of the reason why we moved out here with our dad in the first place. And they're going to have a Navi who is the sort of greeter and face of the Expo, and so they're having a tournament naturally to select which Navi it's going to be, and we enter and compete, as long as with some of our friends. So we have to solve a couple of puzzles, walk through areas that we've been in. The Battle Network series does have a solid amount of backtracking from time to time, although usually it's not so oppressive that you run into trouble, like dreading it. Shoutouts to Battle Network 5. And yeah, we'll just clean this up and get a couple of rewards, and then move on with the plot.
So right now we're doing kind of a hide and seek kind of game. I don't know what the actual lore behind it is, but we have to find these 2 Navis in 3 different comps. So the first time they're hiding in here in the aquarium. And now we're gonna go to Fish Sticks, which we went to earlier to grind for the train arrow, and they're gonna be there again. And then finally we're gonna go to our classroom to finish this little minigame and continue with the story. So one small nice thing about grinding for train arrow in this comp is you need an unlocker that's in this comp. Usually we would have to walk over and grab it right now, but since I had to jack into here earlier, I just grabbed it there. It just saved me like about 5 seconds on this part of the game.
And I'll take the opportunity to introduce the 3 other things that we got out of the Lotto code. So we took out 5 things in total. One was Bust Pack. It increases our charge, speed, and attack stats by 3. We leave the attack plus 1 that we got from the original tutorial in, so we're at maxed attack and almost max charge, which is good enough. We also picked up the HP plus 400, which is all the HP we're going to need to get through the game. Then we grabbed 3 chips. M-Boomer, which is a very powerful grass panel laying attack, which then multiplies our fire damage, which 130 times 2 is pretty good, and it does 170 damage by itself. We also got Air Spin, which is the newest addition to the cast. We throw out a little tornado vortex thing, and it does a whole bunch of damage very quickly. And we also got Elm Trap, which is unfortunately a double screen freeze, like game pause animation, which isn't the best, and that's why Kamari doesn't like it, but it's 240 damage that obliterates the whole field. Very useful on some of the scarier encounters where we could run into problems.
The good
We'll
thing
talk
is
about those more.
It's a very safe chip overall. What were we gonna say, Lurking?
just do this quiz.
3 3 3 1 2.
3, 2, 2. But yeah, the good thing about Element Trap, which is the reason why I still grab it, is it is star coded and it's null element, so we could just charge it using Beast Out, as we mentioned earlier. Ooh, Dolphin.
The item that we just got from completing that quiz is a Lotto code, but we already know what the Lotto code is, and I think that one in particular is like a sneak run or maybe an unlocker or something silly like that that we don't need, but doing the quiz is required to unlock the second quiz, which is so important for what we're getting that even like the TASs do it as an optional side quest to go as fast as possible. We'll get to talk about that more later.
Shadows to wrong left buses. This is like a 15-second animation, and if you accidentally go to the wrong area, you just have to sit there in disappointment as you see the bus going to the wrong destination.
And now we are in Greentown, which is the grass-themed. It's like their thing is that they made the judge tree, which is a tree that handles all of their legal problems. It's also hooked up to the Internet of Things. I don't see how that could possibly be a problem.
Not at all. As we would soon find out. So this here is my favorite folder edit, which we can go over what's going on after I'm done with it.
Up at the last folder edit of the game. Not even halfway through.
Okay, so basically when we finish the last let's do, what is it, 1 in 16?
This is, yeah, fortunately we have 100% run here.
Yeah, so we got an extra folder earlier from finishing the minigame where we were like playing hide and seek. And that folder has some pretty good null element chips. So we took them out of that extra folder and then made space on our actual folder for them.
Highlights were that we took all of the null element chips, which are then chargeable with our beast attacks for later. They also synergize well with the extra damage that we get from beasting out. And we put in Black Bomb, which is an incredibly powerful 250 damage fire chip, which Heat Cross, we didn't mention, augments even further. But it only deals damage if you land it on an enemy's head, or if you hit it with fire attack. But since we're just going to Heat Cross all the time, we always have access to that fire attack.
But there was a little door in our way that we didn't know how to open. So we're gonna become lawyers by paying 1,000 zenny. And then they're gonna tell us how to go through that door.
Also, that blue mystery data that Lurking routed around is actually more maximum HP. That's how strong we are. It is worth it to avoid the maximum HP increase rather than pick it up. Because we don't want to deal with 2 seconds.
Yeah, the only useful thing about getting more max HP is increasing run rates, but we will not be able to increase it enough to where it's worth it. It's too slow to grab that many HP memories. When we could just, you know, 1 or 2 charge every encounter in the whole game now.
One of my favorite sections of the internet to make it through because the battles are random and we have so many tools to do them quickly. Each battle becomes a puzzle, not only a puzzle of how do I do this fastest, but more importantly, how do I quickly come up with a sufficiently fast solution? Because there are so many different ways we can go about deleting everything. Also, nice encounter skip. That's gross.
Makes up for getting that.
Trying to talk about encounters, just skip them.
Yeah.
Extremely technically complicated. Like, you can just, I'll just heat cross everything and shoot them all, but there's always faster ways to do things, and being able to do that on the fly is really the hallmark of a good Battle Network speedrunning.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, so we've been talking about, like, you know, we will get encounters, like, throughout the run. There is actually never a point, like, unlike many other RPGs where we have a step counter that increases to the point where you will get an encounter. It's technically possible, like, a task could go on without getting a single encounter other than the required story ones, if you get lucky enough. So over there, I got a little lucky, skipped the encounter in Green Area 2. But theoretically, in any single screen I run through, I could get no encounters.
You could also get a bumper crop of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to what Les said about the fights and the way to do the fights, Currently, in the route, we're actually trying to use heat cross less and less. We're trying to use our chips more and make use of full synchro, counter hitting, and full synchro with like very powerful chips like and boomer and air spin, and also double crack or double shot and Vulcan 2. So yeah, heat cross is very strong, but it's not actually the fastest.
Yeah, the thing about it is whenever you heat cross, when you first go into the fight, you see that little animation of Mega Man crossing, and every time you could do a fight without it, you save that time of watching that animation.
Yep.
Alright, so back to the plot. Our dad has been arrested, and his alleged crime is attempting to hack the judge tree. Dun dun dun. Can our brave hero, Phoenix Wright, I mean Lan Hikari, solve the mystery and save the day?
But before that, we have to match through the longest string of text in the whole game.
It's so long that they even turn off the music. Wow, you talk to him.
There we go. Yeah, so now Ito was the prosecutor told us that if we want to help Dad, go find him some alibi. So obviously we're gonna go to school where our teacher is gonna be like, oh yeah, your dad was here yesterday, just go find the camera footage of him and that would be a perfectly good enough alibi, but it's probably not gonna go that smoothly. Before I get to it, Komari, for the next fight, I know I'm just talking strats now, but you could copy damage the top corn and then charge the bottom one, right?
Yes, there is a very nice beast out strategy, and in this next fight, I don't know if you're very familiar with it, Lurking. If
I
you're
tried it
into
today and
it.
I messed it up, so I'm gonna try it again.
All right,
And
you have
Remember,
to
if
be
you draw
very fast.
and boomer attack plus 10, that's going to be faster still.
Yeah, and that also works.
Okay, so it's this and beast out, and I'll grab extra chips in case I miss, but it's like...
Yeah, so just copy damage the top one and move right away to the bottom charge. Yeah,
Didn't
it
work,
was a
but
little bit slow.
close.
Yeah.
It still was probably faster than beasting out, because beasting out would take 2 charge shots there.
Heat crossing.
Oh, heat crossing rather, yeah.
But yeah, what Lurking tried to do there, you can actually get a triple delete there, because when in Beast Out, those lashes, one of them is horizontal and the other one is vertical, so it's gonna get like both viruses there, the one in the middle and the one in the bottom, and since we copy damage the one in the top, it's gonna all three are gonna take
And
damage.
go the long way around.
It's gonna get a triple delete. It's a very nice threat.
So shoutouts to not forgetting any major required talking events up to this point. We've only had like the one wrong left bless. It's a hallmark of every Mega Man Battle Network runner to just like forget some very important key piece and then go to
Yes.
wherever you're supposed to go next and lose a minute and a half. So
Yeah, this
good
one
job on
here
that,
is a
Lurking.
big one. You just have to jack into that comp and talk to the little thing in the back. If you forget to, you could get all the way back to the courtroom and then not be able to go in or something like that.
You can also forget to check the lockers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that, and then go all the way to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
comp and then talk to the wall
Yes.
and nothing happens. That's probably one of the most difficult things about getting into Battle Network runs, which is remembering every story trigger and where to do them in which order. Especially for a game like BN6, where the combat is to do not greatly, but good enough. It's very trivial. So the biggest parts of entry into this run is just remembering where to go.
That reminds me of, we actually had like a live coaching race once of 2 totally new players to the series who had only ever played the game casually, never done a speedrun before, set up in voice comms with 2 experts in the series, the world record holder and number 2 at the time, coaching them through a speedrun live as a race. And I think it was a fantastic event just to demonstrate how all you really need to have is somebody whispering in your ear where to go and like, oh yeah, just beast out here and hold A and you win. And you get a great time. I think it was a lot of fun and something I'd look forward to doing again.
Yeah, the Battle Network community, we very commonly do just fun little showcases of such things, either races and randomizers or getting new runners to just try out the games.
All right, Kamari, do you want to introduce us to the judge tree comps?
Yeah, so this is the 3rd dungeon in the game. So the way it works, in this town they're all about following the law. So you're not allowed to step on the grass. It's a crime. So each time you step in one of these tiles, it grows grass, and so you can't step on the same tile twice. And if you do, a Gavel is gonna come after you and take you back to the start of the area. So we want to avoid that for the most part, because there are a couple of skips we can do. I
There's
hope
only
Lurking
one skip here. The
No,
one in Comp 2 does not exist. This one is not
I
real.
hope-
Oh,
I hope
you're not
Lurking
going to go
can
after
do
your
Lurking
own
skip.
skip?
Yeah, so this comp has a skip named Lurking Skip because I brought up the idea, but I just hate that skip. But it's just kind of stuck my name on it by now, and I can't do anything about it. Yeah, so to get the skip, it's actually RNG. You need to not get 2 encounters, and then you could do the skip to skip 1 encounter. I got this encounter relatively early, but not very early. So I might or might not be able to go for the skip depending on how lucky I get in this stretch over here in terms of encounters. Okay.
So
Darn.
no Lurking skip, unfortunately. But you can't step on the grass, and also you have to open those doors by pressing the buttons. So that's basically the mechanic of this comp.
And it's actually, I find it very, almost endearing how all of the dungeons have their mechanic, and we abuse or ignore those mechanics as much as possible. The sharks, we memorized where they go. The aquarium, we abuse the fact that we can avoid all the encounters by swapping to land. Firewalls, we like them because they turn off encounters. And walking on the grass, on an optimal run, you would walk on the grass in 3 out of the 4 relevant comps.
Yes.
So
here we
nice
have
rules.
a skip coming up called Celine Dion skip. Do not ask why. I don't think anyone truly knows why, but it's called Celine Dion skip, which is basically what Laz just mentioned. I'm gonna step on the grass. So instead of looping around this whole area, I'm just gonna go here, get 2 encounters because, you know, bad RNG. And then instead of looping around, we can just step over this one grass panel. The Gavel is gonna come after us, but we're gonna ignore it and just get all the way to the boss fight.
Part of this is we skip an encounter by not having to go around, we save some time. While the Gavel's chasing you, you can't get in a fight, and that particular skip has an 100% success rate, provided you do the movement properly. This is Judge Man. They forgot to program him attacks, which is a little embarrassing for the 6th game in the series, and he's dead, so not much to say.
Also, that was Airspin. I believe it was the first time Lurkin used it. It's a very nice chip. Does 200 damage.
It does 4 hits of 50 in like a circle.
Yeah.
Go now, Seaside, right? Yeah. So here we're gonna take a relatively long detour all the way to the back of the aquarium to do another quiz. Because earlier we did a quiz with that one kid in school. Now we're gonna do another quiz just because quizzes are fun, so why not?
He actually does attack, chat. We just kill him so fast and so proficiently that he never gets a chance to.
Yeah, we just counter hit him every time he tries to attack, and that knocks him out of his animation and just cancels his hit. Yes, we are about to go to the sky in a little bit. Just again, just a small detour to do this quiz, and we'll explain what it gives in a second. 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2.
These quizzes are a lot of fun, done casually. The only problem is, like, if you could just brute force it, and if you get a question wrong, you have to go back to the start of the quiz. But they are a delightful test of your battle network knowledge in general.
So we got this program not program advanced, Navi Customizer program that is called Slip Runner. So you could go ahead and explain what it does, and you will also see it in action very shortly.
Yeah, so in order to run, you have to hold B, but when you have Slip Run on, just Slip Runner on, you don't have to hold B anymore with Mega Man to run. You're just gonna automatically run. And if you press B, you're gonna slide. Mega Man's gonna slide at a much faster speed than running, and he's just gonna stop when he hits something. And that is very, very nice for a lot of reasons. Les can probably explain, especially on encounters.
Yes. So there are 3 big points to this. First off, Kamari said that we no longer have to press B to run. This is relevant because when you're walking, you're moving less fast, less tiles, and so you get encounters slower. The game doesn't check to see if you're running or not. It actually checks to see if you're holding B or not. And since we aren't going to be holding B to run anymore, we will get noticeably less encounters. Also, as you can see how quickly we approached this Navi, you can move extremely quickly with that glide function. That doesn't significantly impact our encounters versus just running, now that we don't have to press B anymore. But it is much faster movement in general, however you can only do it in a straight line. There is a third component, and it's a key component as to why we're playing on the US version as opposed to the Japanese version, but I will get to that later because we will see it in action probably, next scenario in AC/DC? It's called the Slipwalk glitch.
Oh no, we're gonna see it in
Weatherman.
Mr. Weather, yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Swag talk by the way, Lurking.
Yeah. In this game, you can actually talk to something for a few frames after you turn, or you can turn a few frames after talking. I'm not sure which it is. And that would just make it look like you're talking to something backwards. It doesn't do anything other than swag.
So now we're just gonna do 23 fights. This scenario is very, very fun. I believe both of you agree with me.
Yes.
These fights are very, very nice to just, I don't know, they're mixed fights. There are a lot of options with chips you can take, and like if you're gonna beast out, if you're gonna heat cross, it's just really, really fun to mess around with these fights.
These fights are always fixed. You always know what the enemies are going to be, and their AIs are always fixed as well. What you're playing with is the draw, whether or not you had full sync coming in, and just getting through as fast as possible. And it's just pure technical, good old-fashioned battle network execution the whole time. 10 minutes of pure joy, in my opinion.
I agree.
It's also even crazier in the Falzar version because they have the weaker cross, so they are more reliant on beasting out. You can only beast out for so many turns in a row before Mega Man gets tired, and that's that number that you've seen. For the most part, it's been 3. We dropped to 1 in the top left corner most recently. Here it's 2 because you recover 1 at the end of each fight. And managing that is a critical component of the Falzar version. Little unlucky here, it's about a 25% chance to this encounter. Each encounter costs us about 20 seconds at this point in the game. We never want to see one for the whole rest of the game. So slight time loss there, but...
You keep the full synchro?
Yes.
You do, very nice.
I actually didn't know that, but
At least, that's at least something.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I'm just gonna do this fight slowly. I don't think I know the quick strats.
So yeah, for the most fights, you can just key cross and it works.
Yeah.
But the most fun part about this whole scenario is to just figure out what you can do to make these fights faster. Like, for example, Lurking had both Boomer and Air Spin there, which are very
I should have
nice
actually
fights
went for air spin. I just kind of already decided I want to beast out before I saw my draw. And that's another thing about this. Like, you need to react to your draw. So you could always just like autopilot to selecting heat cross, but like the best part is actually quickly analyzing your draw, figuring out what you can do with it.
This fight is pretty bad though. These viruses, post bulbs, they can be really annoying.
Especially this one.
Oh,
So
man.
yes. I don't have the skills, but maybe. Yep. Yeah, this is probably the hardest fight in the whole 23 fight gauntlet.
Black Bomb is a very nice draw here. Just throw it on top of the fire virus and they're all gone.
Kills everything. Yeah, so for Firebomb, you can either hit it with a fire chip or throw it at a fire virus. If you throw it at another virus, it's only going to damage that virus. So Shadows to Smoke BN. But if you hit it on a fire virus, it's going to blow up and hit everything on the enemy side of the field. Any good draws? Yes.
We bought a little key item that let us summon Rush to walk across that floor. It's a huge shortcut, saves us multiple virus encounters every time we come through this comp, which is a lot. So totally worth taking a little detour for that.
I feel like this is a bait. Okay. I tried to be
Whoa.
fancy there, but this is not a fight to try to be fancy in. These guys can be really annoying.
Yeah, Quakers are probably the worst. The one in the bottom just moved really fast, just jumped really fast, so Lurking couldn't hit him.
I didn't know you can't hit him if the thing was broken in front of him, but it makes sense.
You probably can do it if it was Falzer.
Yeah, probably. Falzer has air shoes.
Yep.
Quakers and Pulse Bulbs go back and forth in my mind between which one is the worst enemy in the game.
Yeah.
Is this one of the fights they could press A in with Boomer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, like, as you just saw, Boomer is so strong. Like, basically, in every fight, you just want to see in Boomer. In almost every fight, that's just the best thing you can get, or air spin.
Yep.
I'm not as fancy with air spin, I haven't used it enough to know all the strats with it, but it can also be really good. Oh, I should have pieced it out. It's fine.
This is the last 10 fights in a row we have to take care of. You'll notice that we damage boost a whole lot, although actually just completely avoided damage there as I'm trying to talk about damage boosting. Our health is super not relevant. Like, we have enough of it to do whatever we want, more or less, except get hit by water attacks, but that's a different story for another time. And so a lot of the times you actually want to get hit out of your firearm because it animation cancels. We fire our firearm almost immediately upon release, but then we stand there holding it for a while. Taking a hit lets you reset and start charging again faster. That'll actually be a super relevant strategy on the final boss, which we'll love to point out to you then.
And this fight has a fire virus that can be annoying, or a water virus. Sometimes just knocks you out of your fire hits. I beasted it out instead.
And here's another fantastic example of copy damage being busted. These giant golems take half damage from everything that isn't breaking element. But copy damage just applies the damage directly to them, and the poor Shrubby is wood element, which takes double damage from our Firebuster. So 260 damage
Oh,
goes
come
to
on.
the... Oof. 260 damage goes to the Shrubby, which means 250 damage goes to the Golem, and it dies instantly.
That was just unfortunate there. I was gonna copy damage the middle guy and then boomer the pulse ball, but the pulse ball did not want to attack me for some reason. So the copy damage expired before I got the hit off. This fight has a very fancy strat. Where
It's the coolest strat ever. Exemplifies how the firearm actually has 3 different hitboxes, and the enemy jumps from one hitbox to another to just rack up damage on itself extremely fast. While we wind down the last couple fights, I'll take a moment to shout out, there's actually a pretty active PvP community in Battle Network 6. It might be the only esport currently being played on a Game Boy Advance. And you can find the N1 Grand Prix Discord probably if you Google it, and off of our Discord link later on. I think the meta is a lot about traps and doing good things with your beast outs and your crosses, and that's why there's all the corn memes in chat, in case you're curious.
Cop champ.
Catching back up on the plot, we just finished round 2 of the Expo Navi selection competition. That's what all those fights were for. And our friend Mick went and got himself lost in the Undernet. So if you're a fan of the Battle Network series, you're certainly familiar with the Undernet. It's supposed to be the dark side of the internet. Ooh, spooky evil. And we go and rescue our friend, but get trapped ourselves. Some like weird cultists show up and start praying to the god we ate, and that turns us into evil god mode. Lose control of Mega Man means we gotta go find our friend. This is when, if we had Elecman unlocked, he would be much faster because he's actually in Skytown with us and has much less distance to walk through the internet to get back to Mega Man. But unfortunately we don't, so it's all the way back to Central to pick up our old buddy Heatman and make a dangerous trek. And I say dangerous only because each encounter you get along the way loses you 20 plus seconds, and there is an opportunity for anywhere from 1 to 6 of them. 0 if you're extremely likely. Chat, if you want to play along, I like to play a guessing game. How many encounters are we going to get as Heatman on this trip through the Undernet?
What is your guess, Les?
I'm feeling pretty lucky. I think we're going to get through with 2.
I would be happy with you. I did a run earlier where I got like 4.
I'm gonna say 2.5.
The halves we're referencing are if we get an encounter in this very first comp, it's a guaranteed runaway, so it only costs us 8 seconds.
No
Alright,
halves.
I'm wrong already.
But shoutouts to everybody who already got it wrong.
Alright, so we're still at 0. At least no halves, so everyone who didn't guess halves, you're still in.
I see some excellent guesses. 17, 58. So we actually did a count once of every random encounter you could theoretically get in the game in a run, and I think it ended up being right around 60, so very nice guess there.
So that was a pretty good fight where we drew Black Bomb and there was a fire virus that just allows us to one-shot the fight. Given that we're not Mega Man, we don't have Beast Out or the busted what's it called, Heat Cross, so some of these fights can be very bad.
Or Slip Run, unfortunately.
Yeah,
That would save us a lot too.
Yeah. But instead of Slip Run, we can... Okay, never mind, I'm not gonna finish that sentence.
Normally we would duck into a side comp here in a moment, just to reset our step count and then duck back out, but because we got the encounter, we don't have to.
Yeah.
It probably won't cost you too much time.
Yeah, so if I had gone through that portal, it would have reset my step count. But 2
There it
encounters.
is, 2, I was right.
And 2 quick ones,
Alright.
so that actually is...
No, it's very nice.
Yeah,
Extremely
so
good, yeah.
This is basically what you want to see when you're doing a run. Although you want to see 0, but you typically expect at least 2.
You've occasionally seen a green spinning orb octagon octahedral, I don't know my math shapes in the battles, and Lurking has been completely ignoring them and just breaking them as often as possible. Those are battle mystery datas, and they can have random cool loot in them. Unfortunately, we don't need any loot, and there's like an extra reward screen if you keep them alive, so we actually go out of our way to kill them to save time. They can be early in the or useful in the very first encounters in the game, but they're extra unlikely to be seen there, so fortunately we're just going to pop them every
The
time.
only time we care about them is through that very first path-through in the internet, pretty much. Where you can get a chip called Tornado or Boomer, which are both great chips for the early game.
You can also get 1000 Zenny, which is pretty nice.
Which is not as useful, but it could save you
Yep.
just 5 seconds.
So now we are in Skytown. Skytown is a mile above the sea, and it's where we control the weather from, but naturally, everything up here is also connected to the Internet of Things and got hacked. So we are going to, in the middle of a fantastically strong windstorm, take an elevator a mile up into the sky and walk around on platforms without handrails on all sides, while machines are running haywire in order to try to once again save the day. Kids, don't try this at home.
So I just realized something is coming up fight is probably the second most dangerous fight in the run, I would say. So I need to remember to save. I have not saved throughout the entire run.
Okay, that's a good call. So the dangerous aspect of this upcoming fight is that the viruses are water element, and if you get hit while in heat cross by a water element attack, it not only does double damage, but it also knocks you out of the cross, leaving us in our pretty weak Mega Man form.
Fortunately, no Black Bomb though.
Fortunately. So Black Bomb can be fast, but it can also be run killing. Oh. That's one of the fights that we mentioned. Element Trap is slow, but it's great for safety. If you draw it in this fight, you can instantly win it.
Yeah, the worst draw there is the Black Bomb as mentioned, because you have a very small frame window to fire off your attack before the incoming bubbles knock you out of heat cross, and if that happens, that's just lights out.
Weapons first. No, not... Okay. Do this again, not supposed to do this. There we go. Wait, that's another one of the big things which like separates great PN runners from just regular PN runners, which is how quickly you pick what you want. Like there, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but there are always so many possibilities that like remembering what inputs to do to pick the things you need is sometimes tricky when you're doing it on the spot.
Not a lot of great draws, unfortunately. Just regular Heat Frost or Beast Out. No Black Bombs, no Boomers.
Yeah, this fight, again, it's a lot of fire viruses, so you want to see a Black Bomb.
Yeah, Electrats do demolish both of those last two fights we saw with the water viruses. It does 240 damage, which is enough to just instantly kill everything. Fighter planes, another much beloved fly into my firearm please virus. Triple hit for 390 damage.
Now, I actually don't know exactly what's going on here, but there's someone knocked out in the locker.
So the bad guy dressed up as the director of Skytown and locked the actual director in that closet. For the record, that's the second time this game in the last like 45 minutes we've let somebody out of a closet. I don't know what Nintendo's trying to imply, but you know, I'm not against it. And that bridge falls out as we try and cross it, so we're gonna have Mega Man go find a way for us to jump. Lurking, are we gonna get to watch this cutscene?
Yes.
Yes!
As long as I don't accidentally muscle memory skip it, but... So is it like immediately after? I don't know when it happens, but
I think it's right here. Mega Man bravely jumps across.
Now Lane has
Now
to
it's
follow.
Lan's turn. But he's worried. He's got an idea. What could go wrong?
Nothing could possibly go wrong by just
Nothing could go wrong.
And the umbrella breaks. Oh no, Lane's gonna die. Mega Man catches him. Alright. Now we're on to the
Right.
next dungeon, which is Mr. Weather Comps, which is to me the most annoying one in the game, but
Shout out to Typhoons.
Alright, lots to talk about. I'll try and do it quickly
Yes.
here. First off, we slipped into this prog by pressing the B button while talking to him, the A button. You'll notice that Mega Man is in a weird animation state. It's going to get broken as soon as we go on this cloud. I'll talk about that more later, but it's just something to keep in mind. Kamari, you want to talk about the actual mechanic we're engaged with here?
Yeah, so you guys remember Slip Runner? And that is a specific glitch called Slipwalk. If you interact with, I believe, anything while you're doing the slip run, Mega Man enters in a glitch where he's running, but in this sliding animation, slipping animation, and we can't get encounters while in the form, so it is very, very useful. Lurk can just skip the
it's
encounter.
the first time I
completely
ever
in that
skipped
comp.
that encounter. I've never gotten that skip, but
And this is a major difference between Japanese and US version, because Lurkin just did it off a GMD, mystery data, and you can't do that in the Japanese version. It soft locks the game, and that is why the US version is more consistent overall.
again, you could always get lucky and not get encounters, but this just significantly reduces it. But aside with that, right now, there's not too much of this comp. You just have to collect all these rainbow macaronis and then kill the Typhoons. Typhoons are random and annoying. That's all there is to it.
Again, that thing that lets us do the slipping at all is the slip run program, which is what we got from the second quiz, and it's got that wonderful slip walk glitch, which we made use of 2 times. We'll see it more in the future. By talking to a mystery data or an NPC, you can't do it off of objects. While slipping at the same time, you enter the slipwalk state. While in the slipwalk state, you can't get encounters. You also can't pause the game or jack out, and if you go across certain warps, you'll actually soft lock. So we'll remind Lurking to not do that when he gets to the point where it's a potential danger. And that's the primary difference between Japanese and the US version, is that you cannot slipwalk off of anything that gives you an item in the Japanese version, or it will soft lock you. And this is going to be probably a super impressive no encounter Mr. Weather. Back before we routed this to include slipwalk stuff, that would be like a 1 in 100. And, you know, for Lurking, it's just another Thursday. Oh, I spoke too soon.
Still, one encounter is still, you can't be mad about that.
Yeah, so that is something that I learned from last tutorial, actually, that if you get the macaroni there, the thing there, and you re-grab the B button, you can just go into slipwalk again, or I mean slip run again, and not get any counter check before you do that.
Yeah, but I hit the
Lurkin
wall.
Yeah, Lurkin did that, but then he hit the wall because he was probably 1 or a couple of frames off there.
That's Element Man. Again, just like all the other bosses, we know their patterns. He's gonna move 3 times and then attack.
Element Man is gonna turn wood element for
Fair
us,
wood.
and we will happily let him. He cycles through all the elements and uses pretty cool attacks based on which element he's in, but since he goes wood first, he just dies. The poor Navi.
Remember to go to green area. I always forget about that.
This is the final section of the Navi selector test for the pavilion, and we are off to the undernet to do some sky gazing. This is just a pretty heavy movement focused part of the run. Most of what we do from this point onward is
Before we
force
check
fights,
in,
boss fights.
I do want to mention we have another guessing game. If you want to play that, this one is a lot longer. So I could get between, I believe, 0 and 10 encounters. So if you want to take guesses on that, that would be another time to do.
Wait,
Anywhere
10
between 0 and
encounters?
10. It could get, I think you can go up to 11 if it's real bad. Maybe I'm just saying that for the meme. So yeah, most of the rest of the game at this point is just clever movement using our slip walk ability, our slip run ability, and just trying to move around the comps efficiently to minimize encounters while we make our way through a whole bunch of story checkpoints, a couple of fixed fights, and bosses. That's it. We won't actually touch Mega Man's stats from this point onward, nor are we going to adjust any chips or our Navi Customizer, anything like that. Just straight to the end. Kamari, what are you feeling encounter-wise here?
I'm actually gonna say 4.
Oh, come on.
I'm very sorry, Lurking.
I had 6
it was-
earlier, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, I'm gonna say 3. And spoilers, chat. We've actually already skipped 2, so probably don't guess 9 at this point.
Yeah, and we skipped one of the more likely ones, which is Undernet 1 over there. Seaside. Yeah, but other than the whole train arrow things that we mentioned earlier, getting train arrow and drawing it on fights, this might be the next biggest RNG part of like doing PB attempts, because these encounters can completely just kill your run.
Absolutely. Getting 0 encounters in this section compared to 4 is a minute plus time save easy. I think I had a PB once with 7 encounters in this section, and it was just such a joy to run against because I could be a minute behind and I'd come out a minute ahead pretty consistently.
I believe it was my PB that had 0, so it's always miserable to go against that because 0 is so unlikely.
So now Lurkin is gonna go back to the undernet to get the moonstone, which is the item he needs to progress. And there's actually a big difference. Well, I'm not sure if it's that big of a difference, but there's a difference between Japanese and US version here, because there's an opportunity for slip walk off of BMD, a Blue Mystery Data, and it just saves encounters in the US version, but you can do it in the Japanese version because it soft locks the game. But so in the Japanese version, you just have to slip run through everything, and if you don't get encounters, it is just faster. It's just really unlikely for you to get no encounters. So there is a difference. Let's see if
It comes
Lurkin
down
can
to
actually
about
get it.
25% chance to skip the encounter in English, which we
Yeah.
did,
Yeah,
type.
very nice.
and a 4% to skip the encounter in Japanese.
just
But if you
don't
pull off the
miss-
Japanese skip, it is faster.
Yeah, because as you saw, I took a detour to grab the Blue Mystery Data, and slip walking is slower than just slipping, just like in terms of movement.
Alright, but we're 0 out of 5 possible encounters so far. Absolutely fantastic.
Okay, so there's one encounter that's it's actually not. Oh, it's supposed to sleep, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one encounter that's not as slow to get, because if we do get it, we can save time and movement wise, which is coming up. So that one encounter is the the best one to get if you were to get one.
Yes, two of the other competitors that we just defeated to become the Pavilion Navi, one of are people who run some of the other Link Navis that we can get. There was Chargeman's operator, whose name escapes me at the moment, but he has one of the most fun scenarios. You get to be a train and drive progs around. It's great. And the other one is a Navi deleter, so legitimately an assassin named Eraseman who works at our school. That's the school with the same flamethrower, and later we find out cattle prod enabled security bots at an elementary school with kindergartners. I'll just leave it at that. We finally make our way back to ACDC, visit some old friends. We can rob Dex. He's actually got an HP memory in his doorway if we wanted to steal that, but it's not worth our time. And then we get to go onto the internet and, you know, have good old-fashioned hangout session.
Let's roll one of Mega Man's friends is Navis, or Lan's friends Navis. We just have to talk to her for story reasons. And this frog was trapped behind the door. We need to find out a way to save him. Which, fortunately enough, our friend Dex locked him up and hid his key in his own area. So we're just gonna grab it from here. And then slip off of this frog to avoid encounters. And we still have a chance at an encounter right here. If I don't get it... Yeah, I'm gonna
Nice.
jack out and jack back in.
Nice.
It was also extremely important Lurking repressed B before he reached that warp point to re-engage the slip. If he had not, he would have soft locked his game.
Yeah. And it's gonna happen again in a second where I will have to slip through that area and slip rather than slip walk into the warp because I don't want to soft lock. That'd be bad.
Oh yeah, this is one of the few Battle Network games where we don't fight Gutsman. We do see him a lot.
So here we're hanging out with our friends, but our friends get kidnapped and we have to go save them. This is the main place where you are always slipping and need to remember to just press B. Okay.
Yep. And that's another place where you can buffer by re-grabbing the B button in order to get another slip unlock. Otherwise, you do actually have a 1 in 60 or so to get an encounter there.
Shout out to GMD skip.
Yep, and GMD skip, there's a 50-50 for a GMD to save you like 2 frames of
Yes.
movement as we run into it. It's great.
I think there are only 2 encounter chances now.
I have 2 more. And one of them is kind of unlikely, the other one is likely to get. Yeah, so getting an encounter under net 1, you can get it. It's not too unusual, but it's not as common as some of the other ones. For example, under net 2, I am expecting to get an encounter now before the boss fight. Right here. Okay, 0 encounters.
Zero encounters.
None!
Very lucky.
That's so
Very
good!
nice.
Alright, so the boss fight is a back-to-back. It's against Blastman EX. He's been upgraded. His AI has been significantly improved. Let's all sit back and watch what he does.
If I have a black bomb, I could actually make Blastman counter hit himself by him popping the black bomb and then getting counter hit.
Yeah, unfortunately, when they updated Blastman, they forgot to add attacks to him. So, yeah.
And now Dive Man. This is actually a pretty technical fight because if we get hit by any torpedo, we fall out of Heat Cross, which is very annoying. Of course, we'll use Beast Out, which is fine if that does happen. But it can be a tough fight to go fast.
Which is fine, because I have 3 chips, so I'm just gonna charge them all and kill him. Or I can charge 2 and then kill him with the last one, whichever way I decide to do it. Cooperated there. Oh, never mind, I'm actually 100 damage short. I miscounted. Gonna have to grab one more chip. There we go.
Alright, so we succeeded in rescuing our friends, but just like the last time we ventured haphazardly into the Undernet, we met those cultists again, and so Mega Man's once again running amok in beast form. Even worse, he's found his way into a copy bot, which is what's been allowing us to play Mega Man as Mega Man on the overworld. So there is currently a beast-outed, uncontrollable Mega Man running around as a robot, slashing holes and things in Seaside. I think we like appeal to the power of his heart or something by like trying to sacrifice ourselves, and it works. I don't quite remember the plot for this.
Yeah, I don't remember the plot.
Yeah, I just don't know that somehow, some way, Mega Man ends up being in underground area, which is where we're gonna go next after we read this email. 1-2 talk. Yeah, so our teacher, who was actually, spoiler, controlling Blast Man this whole time, told us that he wants to meet us in Sky area. So we're just gonna go there. He's gonna tell us where Mega Man is being kept or is.
Yeah, we skipped a bunch of random encounters there, mostly out of luck, but also abusing our ability to move faster and use slip walk in order to avoid certain ones entirely. So
Had
it
I
was a
just-
combination of luck in that.
Yeah, had I just ran regularly through the areas, I would have gotten a lot of encounters, but just abusing slipwalk and knowing when to slip and when to run can just minimize some of the chances.
Alright, we did promise it would come back, and I don't want to hype you up too much, chat, but it's almost soul weapons time.
But before that, we just have to run around a couple times because that's what Battle Network games make you do.
Yeah, actually, I guess this is a pretty big plot reveal, isn't it? Mega Man has escaped down to the underground, which is where Circus Man had summoned the Psy Beasts from, so he's like down where the Psy Beasts used to be hanging out, probably running amok. It's gonna be fine. We'll play as He-Man for a little bit and go rescue him.
So here we're just gonna need 2 more sneak runs because we're gonna run through central area a couple times as Heatman. I also bought 2 full energies which fully heal your Navi if you use them. They're not necessary, I just got them for safety. Because there are a couple of very scary fights that are gonna come up after the next boss fight.
So here, we can't actually access the underground area. We need permission from the mayor, who is also the principal at Land School, so very convenient.
Yeah, but there's a firebot blocking the way, so we're gonna have to somehow move it away. Good thing our friend Make is a troublemaker, and it's just gonna make all of the firebots attack him.
Yeah,
And that's
I don't
gonna
remember
open.
what he does, but
You don't know
Just-
either.
yeah.
And the big reveal. 1, Chod comes up out of nowhere, so shoutouts to Chod if you're familiar with the Battle Network series. He's sort of our arch rival, but also a good guy. And it turns out the mayor and slash principal was the evil mastermind all along. He's also the guy who's been designing the pavilion. Probably the whole expo is fine, right?
Yep. Definitely.
So now Lurking can actually get to the underground area, and we can finally meet the evil spirits again. So, but this time instead of 6 areas of
Just
soul
the-
weapons, it's just 2.
So again, there's nothing different about these soul weapons than the previous ones. The only thing to note is like the second screen that we're gonna do. There's basically no room for error. It's very hard to mess up, but if you do mess up, you're gonna have to probably restart the whole screen.
Good time to talk about the Mega Man Battle Network series in general. Like I said, at the start, there's 6 games in the traditional Battle Network series, 1 through 6, but starting at Battle Network 3, we break out into versions, Pokemon style, so you have Battle Network 3 White and Blue, for example, and then they become a little bit more different with different final bosses or different major plot points along the way for 4 through 6, including different Navis. There's also a couple of spin-offs of the spin-off series. In fact, we spin off so hard that we spin back on with Mega Man Network Transmission, which is Mega Man.exe's in a original Mega Man style side-scrolling. Also, Mega Man EXE Wonderswan, or maybe that's Rockman EXE Wonderswan, for the Wonderswan of all things. Is another spun off so hard that we spun back on. You also have fun things like the Mega Man Battle Chip Challenge, which is a turn-based deck builder, auto chess sort of game. Really weird. It's worth a checking out. Also totally RNG manipulatable. And you've got the DS versions, which there's a remake of 5. There's also some collections of 1, 2, and 3 that you can get on the Wii U, and the Star Force series, Star Force 1, 2, and 3, with their respective versions available on the DS. There's also rumors of a Battle Network 7, including, like, you can find Switch cover art for Battle Network 7. Apparently it was maybe going to come out in 2021, but it's always just been rumors, so who knows what will actually happen. Oh yeah, also Battle Network 4.5 operating, no, I don't remember what the heck that one's called, but I keep being told not to play that one. I haven't played it yet. Apparently it's got like a level up system that's different and weird. Can't describe it to you all that much.
Yeah, so right after dealing with all of these evil spirits, we're gonna have 2 fights, and the first one, we're gonna be using Heatman, and we're gonna face off against GB's Mega Man. It's a pretty interesting fight, and unfortunately, it basically comes down to did you draw M Boomer or not? Because you can even triple hit him with Boomer if you execute it correctly. So Lurking is basically gonna look for counter hits.
And also him getting counter hitted is kind of RNG. Not all hits you could counter hit, but every 4 hits there is one hit that you definitely can. So the fight can be scary, not really. It's scary for starting out, but once you know the patterns, it's not bad. But I'll save just in case. So let's see what I draw. Nothing. At least I can draw my whole hand, so I can cycle through a lot of chips. So right now he's not doing the attack where I could counter hit him. Okay.
Good progress.
That's a decent chip. It's not M Boomer, but
Oh, 400 damage, very nice.
Oh, even the counter there. Ouch. This is rough. We have a number of good chips that we can draw that do a lot of damage, especially combined with our counter hitting capabilities, but sometimes you just don't draw them.
Yeah, at least I did draw the one air spin which did 400 damage. Just like imagine had I had to do an extra 400 of just bad chips.
This is Colonel. He is AI manipulatable, so we can get him in a loop, which Lurking has now successfully established. He will only ever use that slash attack, provided we are standing in the right panels, and that's easy enough to do. So say goodbye to Colonel.
And M Boomer makes the fight significantly faster, just by the grass panels make my things do double damage.
I'd say that 4 and 5 probably got the worst end of the dev cycles discussion that's happening. So the games did release 1 year after the other. 4 got kind of hit because it was sort of like the unexpected start to the next trilogy, and 5 has a lot of repetitive filler content. But
5 is still a
even
great
then,
game.
they're
but
like,
yeah,
yeah,
it has some great mechanics, but also just a lot of backtracking.
we got to make another trip out to the Undernet, and this is some of the funnest and most dangerous fights along the way against non-bosses. There's a number of evil Navis, punk Navis that we're gonna... Did you say no? There's a number of punk Navis along the way that we're gonna have to encounter, including probably the most lethal one, which maybe will finally convince Lurking to take a safety save.
Oh, I will take it, definitely. And I also took the full energy just so I can heal after that fight, in case it goes disastrously.
The first fight is almost just a warm-up, really. It's just triple Omega Metar. And one of the nice things is really how like they have the monsters level up as you're fighting throughout the game, which is really sweet, because like we know how Metars work. Now this is just supercharged Metars doing their thing that much faster and scarier. Also, you'll notice that that one had a recover 150 that he could have used, but we killed him too fast, so save some time.
Yeah, if you try to go for a heat cross there, he would tend to be able to actually use that, and you would need an extra shot. There might have been some fancier things you can do here, but I can actually double hit these guys with my heat cross. It's just a pretty easy fight.
Yeah, I think there's a beast out strat for that one, but I don't even know. Honestly,
This
I don't know
is the
last
scariest
either
fight
way.
in the run, so I have to take the safety save basically.
There is a beast out strat, but it's real tough on that last one. Alright, let's see how Lurking's able to put this one together. It's not a good draw.
So I'm gonna have to beast out. If you heat cross, you're basically dead.
Ah, the spite barrier. How rude.
This went not badly.
Yeah.
I will use this, even though I have still a lot of HP.
I think the kettle can just one-shot you
The
anyway.
kettle can one-shot you. If this kettle actually hits me, I will die.
Oh, but he cooperated perfectly.
Very nice.
If you didn't understand exactly what happened, he went into my black bomb popped on him, so it killed him. And then when he dies, he has this like death rattle ability where he just attacks everything around him, and that killed the other two enemies.
That is that. With those enemies out of the way, we're able to read the battle board to figure out where Iris got kidnapped to. I can't just fathom how many kidnappings a 10-year-old had to solve during the course of this game. Like, it's really absurd. I guess kidnapping Iris doesn't exactly count because she's more robot than human, but whatever. Now we get to progress on to the final day and go be the head operator Navi combo for the Expo, which remember was set up by the evil mayor principal and definitely can't have anything nefarious associated with it all.
And also the Expo will have arguably the best music in the entire game, maybe the entire series.
I'll take the opportunity to talk about the 100% and post-game content that you can expect with Battle Network games. They all tend to be absolutely fantastic, to be totally honest. There's a little bit of a grind involved trying to collect all the chips and getting the mega chips and stuff, but there are almost always a large number of post-game bosses, upgraded versions of the bosses you've already fought, cool secrets to find, and really crazy folders to build and encounters to have. Like, base is a staple in Battle Network games and in Mega Man games in general. And actually, fun fact, we could have fought him all the way back during the Greentown split before we beat Element Man. Not Element Man, Judge Man, even. But he gets to absurd power levels like 2 hitting you with extremely fast attacks and a giant shield and 3000 HP, and you can build yourself up to the point to be able to beat that, punch through it, and fight secret versions of the end bosses in almost every one of the games. Just fantastic, fantastic post-game stuff. Team BN had a 600% where we did all the 100% speedruns back to back to back to back in celebration of the 20th marathon a little while ago. Super fun event. Would highly recommend anybody who is looking for casual games to get into and they want a lot of good post-game content. BN was really the gold standard at the time of its release, in my opinion.
Yeah, so since there's gonna be the Expo, Len and Mega Man have to invite all of their friends to go there because I don't remember the plot exactly, but since he won the operator thing, they can go earlier than everyone else. So he gets to invite all of his friends, and it's faster to invite them over the internet than to go to ACDC. And now Lurking is just gonna go to the Expo, and of course Len is late again.
As always late. Alright, so I mentioned earlier the best music, and here it is. And then it just loops. It's about a 9-second soundtrack that just loops over and over again. I think it's a little bit less.
4 measures, 16 beats. I believe it's called Circus, is the name of the song, and really that just describes that soundtrack in general. Ooh, Lurking demonstrating the most important skill of any Battle Network runner. Ooh, and getting punished for it. You can attempt to jack in when there's nothing around and you get a beep. Beeping along with the music is super fun, as he's aptly demonstrating, except we got punished with that Mr. Weather jack-in attempt.
I've actually never, I don't think I've ever done it in this area. Like, I know the other areas where I could get punished that I've had, but I've never done it here. I just realized that I didn't do it this run and I had to showcase it. Yeah, so honestly, I don't know what exactly is going on now, but there's a lot of these heal Navis all around. And we're gonna have to go fix things in the path.
Yeah, the bad guys, I think, are escaping through the pavilion somehow, and we're like chasing them down. It doesn't really make all that much sense.
Yeah, and I think Len's friends got kidnapped again. His real friends this time, not the Navis. And yeah, there were
Yeah, there they are.
there are a lot of copy bots, and they are now punk Navis.
Alright, so these are the final dungeons of the game. It's 4 comps called Pav 1 through 4, which are basically upgraded versions of the comps that we already did. This is just a redo of the Aquarium comps. But now we have slipwalk, so we're gonna slipwalk through the entire thing.
Yeah, another major difference from the Japanese version, you can't actually do that because it would soft lock the game. So the spread is a little bit different on Japanese. It's actually a bit faster in the Japanese version, but the chance at an encounter is much higher at the end.
And it's actually not too easy to do, because remember, every corner, if I hit any wall or any frog that I talk to or any fish tank, I will get out of my slipwalk and probably get an encounter. Yeah, so as you can see, I'm like moving in only the diagonal directions to make sure that I never touch any walls.
I think with perfect movement, you can actually get a 0% counter check.
I believe so,
counter check at all.
Yes.
At the end.
But only if you don't bump anything for the whole comp.
There's only one more prog. This is actually only a 3 fish comp. And after I talk to this last one, I can break out of my slipwalk because it's the last one and your encounter chance doesn't increase when you have a prog coming with you, so yeah, now we can just break out and it's fine.
Yeah, this one is a very interesting fish, by the way.
There are like strats to like cut a cycle, but I'm just gonna go around.
How do you slipwalk? Good question. Step 1, have Slip Run, the program advance installed. Walk up to any Navi or prog and press A and B at the same time while walking into them, and that should do it for you. It's a little bit trickier to do it consistently and or off of mystery data, but it's the same general principle. You just need to be holding the direction that you want to towards the object you're talking to and press A and B at the same time.
Here is the best, and probably, yeah, definitely the best comp and strat in the whole run. I'm not gonna talk while doing it, but Last, you could explain what's going on.
Alright, so just like before, we're not allowed to step on the grass, are we? Nope, just kidding, we're gonna go fast, because if we have this guy chasing us, we can't get encounters, and thanks to Slipwalk, we can give him the slip. It's a thing of beauty. This is extremely difficult. Like, I have 30 plus hours of practice on this trick alone and probably still only an 80% success rate. There are corners that are invisible and clunky, and if you touch any of them, it cancels your slips. You have to be ready to deal with it. Lurking looks like he's going to make it, though. He's almost to the end. Yes. First try, easy every time. That's what we call gavel skip. It saves about 20-25 seconds. And Rish, who is current, I think, second place, has personally told me that if I ever get a world record without doing gavel skip, he will show up at my house and kill me.
Shoutouts to Last practicing this run after doing some workout so he could practice it while his heart rate's up, because you will have your heart racing when you're doing this trick in a run. Okay. This next comp I will save again. It's been a while since I've done that.
Alright, so we're back in the Rain and Macaroni comp. The boss isn't hard, the mechanic isn't hard, so why are we saving? And the answer is, this comp features the Nightmare Virus. Fans of the series will know that Nightmare Viruses can only be damaged by sword chips, and we have none of them. There's also a run glitch in this game that can occasionally occur where you can fail to run 7+ times in a row and kind of, lock yourself in an extremely deadly fight with enemies you cannot kill. That's why we're saving. This is another place where the Japanese version has a slight advantage over the English version because it has a lower encounter chance for that virus type.
Only one more encounter check? Okay. So what I'm gonna do now actually is after I get rid of these Typhoons, I'm gonna check out of the comp and check back in to reset my step counter to guarantee not getting any fights here.
And surprisingly cooperating.
Very nice,
Typhoons. Yeah.
You can actually lose a lot of time there just to Typhoons. They can be in a place where you can't go around them, and they will just keep moving because they are like locked in that place, and they can go on for like 2 minutes or something.
So no one's ever died to this boss. You cannot die here. Escamari knows.
Triggered.
I think almost every boss in the game has been died to, just by just saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that I recently died to this one in a trifecta.
Was it a try or? Yeah, trifecta. I forgot it was Rish who did the hexafecta.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's only one more comp to go before the final boss. This one is a revisit of the fire comps, but it's not exactly the same. Instead of just having frogs that are on fire, they're actually fights that you have to do, and a couple of them are actually very scary.
Plus, the firewall has been upgraded to be evil spirits that do 100 damage, which is definitely non-trivial for us at this point.
I could have went for Dark Bomb or Fire Bomb there. Right breast. and throw it on this dragon guy, but it's kind of inconsistent.
The next fight can also be quite annoying. There's a candle virus that doesn't take fire damage, and so you can hit it with heat cross, so you can just copy damage it and hit other viruses. But timing is kinda tight, and it hits a lot. Like, I hope Lurkin doesn't get hit by it. Yeah, he got hit by the meteor, so it's all fine. I don't remember how much damage the kind of virus does, but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Fight also pretty scary. Sandworms move around fairly randomly, and we're going to see a number of those. Oh, we've got a full energy in store. Excellent. And the machine gun virus can stun you and then jump in for a ton of damage. Also, Black Bomb can get broken by the sandworms, which can just kill your attempt at finishing them off quickly.
Yeah, this is why I used full energy.
So, coming up, another boss that you literally cannot die to.
I feel like this boss is the most memed that you can't die to, but I think every single runner has died here before.
Circus Man EX. He's faster and meaner, and sometimes you're here with literally 100 HP and everything he does one hit.
Yeah, had I not used my full energy, I would be one hit by now.
That brings us to the final boss fight after a short trek through the internet. I'm going to start talking about the final boss now, though, because it's a pretty complicated fight. The essence is we are going to face tank every attack that we can reasonably get damage off back to the boss. He's got a fire breath and a lightning breath, and then a tail attack. So the fire breath we like because we can hit him, the lightning breath stuns us so we don't like it, and the tail attack we like because we can dodge it and hit him a ton. Meanwhile, there's also going to be boulders falling on us, and I promised an explanation of this, so we are going to intentionally line up the boulders to fall on us while we are firing our attack to damage boost and cancel the animation early, so we get more damage off more quickly. Unfortunately, we didn't draw the perfect thing here, which would be M-Boomer. The grass panels that lay down would give us extra damage. But this is Gregar, and we'll see if we can get fast Gregar strats.
I hit him a little bit early, so I missed out on a little bit of damage. Should still be fine.
Gregar has 2 hitboxes. His head and his body both count, and if you can hit them on the same frame, or have him like lose his iframes while you are hitting that spot, you can double damage him. So our Beast Breath here doing 400 damage each shot instead of 200.
Okay, time is coming out on the next hit on him.
Time is on the next hit.
Just one more.
Right here, time.
Time.
Ooh. Okay, so that was Battle Network 6. Before I finish out, I will show one very quick thing. It's tradition for every BN6 run to close out with this. So I will actually just reload my save instead of playing out the credits. So I'm just gonna run back to a comp that is very close by. Am I going the right way? I'm not, right? Wait, where do I go? This way. There we go.
Going?
This way, right? I'm going to soft lock myself.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. It's just how you end every BN6 run. It's this comp, right? Yeah.
You can do it there.
So we're gonna slipwalk up with this frog, and as we mentioned earlier, if you walk into these portals while you're in slipwalk, this happens. Nothing you can do, nothing you press works, the only thing you can do is reset the game. But I guess that's gonna be all from me, so Blast and Komari, thank you for joining me. I hope everyone enjoyed this run. And yeah, that's all for me. So we can move on to the next run, the marathon. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for watching.
Thank you for watching.